Located in the southeastern Arizona, the Fort Bowie National Historic Site commemorates the bitter conflict between the Chiricahua Apache and the United States military. It also acts as a permanent memorial to the valor and tenacity of American soldiers who cleared the path for westward migration and frontier settlement. John Butterfield was given a contract by the government in 1857 to transport mail by stagecoach between San Francisco, California and St. Louis, Missouri. The 2,800-mile route was to be covered within 25 days. A year later, Butterfield addressed his troops as the stagecoaches were getting ready to leave on their voyage. "Remember, boys, nothing on God's earth must stop the United States mail." He had no idea that he would face up against the resentful chief Cochise of the Chiricahua Apaches in the future. In July 1858, the Apache Pass state station was constructed from stone. Enclosed within its 6 to 8 feet high walls were a kitchen dining room, sleeping quarters, a storage room for feed and weapons, and a mule corral equipped with portholes in each stall. The stagecoach would stop here for a change of mules, a brief rest, and a meal consisting of bread, coffee, meat, and beans, all for 50 cents. For over 2 years, the Chiricahua Apache allowed the mail and passenger stages to pass safely, though uneasily, through Apache Pass. In exchange for gifts, they supplied firewood to the state station. The celerity wagon was custom-built by Butterfield for the middle portion of the journey. In contrast to the massive Concord coaches that were utilized at both ends of the line, the lighter, mule-driven celerity was more suitable for negotiating the abrasive rocky gorges and mountains of the Southwest. The brief success of the Butterfield stage in the area ended in 1861 when a young lieutenant, George Bascom, falsely imprisoned Chiricahua Apache chief Cochise on charges of kidnapping a white child. On February 4, 1861, Second Lieutenant George Bascom and his detachment of 43 men set up camp in Apache Pass. Bascom's tasks included tracking down Chiricahua Apache chief Cochise, rescuing a white child who had been abducted, and recovering cattle that had been taken by Apache raiders. During a meeting with Cochise and his band members, Bascom ordered Cochise to be held hostage until the boy and livestock were returned. Insulted, as neither he nor his people had committed these acts, the Apache chief bolted from the tent. The remaining Apache were apprehended during the subsequent pandemonium. After these things happened, Bascom gave the order for his command to advance and strengthen the state station. Our carts were arranged end to end to create a semicircle that encircled the corral, and on one side of the station laying the groundwork for the outer breastworks. According to Sergeant Daniel Robinson, there was a deep ravine on this side with its nearest point about 100 yards from the station. On the inside of the circle, earth-filled empty grain sacks were set. 1,800 yards distant, on the morning of February 5, the Apaches started to gather in large numbers on a hill. They soon dispersed, leaving a white flag. Shortly after, a warrior approached the state station, defended by Bascom and his men, stating that Cochise wished to have a talk with our chief. The talk began with Cochise making a strong plea for the release of the captive Apaches. He was told they would not be freed until the boy was returned or found. This discussion went on for around 30 minutes. Meanwhile, Butterfield employee James Wallace approached the ravine at a point above us, seemingly unnoticed by anyone. Suddenly, a few Apaches dashed from the ravine, seized Wallace, and dragged him out of sight. This abruptly ended the discussion. The Apache warriors fighting from the nearby hills and ravines engaged the troops defending the staging station in a combat. 3 days later, Cochise and his warriors attacked troops at the Apache Spring and the stage stop in a last-ditch effort to win the release of Apache prisoners. These attacks failed, forcing Cochise and his followers to retreat into the Chiricahua Mountains. Despite this, the chaos of warfare engulfed Apache Pass for 16 days, with hostages taken and executed by both sides out of vengeance, fostering bitterness and hatred that persisted for over a decade. Terror reigned until 1872, when President U.S. Grant sent an emissary, General Oliver O. Howard along with Army Scout Thomas Lefferts to negotiate peace with Cochise. However, the lingering anger of other Apache warriors led to the Apache Wars, a direct consequence of Bascom's actions. During the Bascom Affair, soldiers, Butterfield employees, and passengers took refuge at the state station. The ongoing tensions led to the discontinuation of the southern Butterfield overland mail route in March 1861. A few months later, the Battle of Apache Pass took place nearby on July 15th and 16th, 1862. While traveling from California to New Mexico to engage Confederate forces, a group of Chiricahua Apache attacked a Union regiment commanded by General James Henry Carleton. As a result of this conflict, Fort Bowie was built later that year to guard Apache Pass, a vital water supply. Colonel George Washington Bowie, commander of the 5th Regiment California Volunteer Infantry, who built the fort in the first place, is honored by the fort's name. The position didn't initially resemble a fort, instead it resembled a makeshift military camp. However, in 1868, a second more substantial Fort Bowie was built, featuring adobe barracks, houses, corrals, a trading post, and a hospital. For over 30 years, the rebuilt fort served as the center of military activities. The Apache were finally subdued when Geronimo surrendered in 1886, and the Chiricahua Apache were relocated to Florida and Alabama. The fort then served as a stopover for travelers until it was abandoned in 1894. In 1911, the land was sold for $1.25 to $2.50 per acre, and many of the buildings were dismantled.